Before we descend into the labyrinth of smoke and mirrors, into a world where a handshake is a weapon and silence is the loudest sound of all, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. We are exposing the machinery of the shadows, the operations that history books are too afraid to print. Click that notification bell so you never miss a dossier opening. Now, we go back to the autumn of 1988. The rain in Brussels does not wash the city clean. It only makes the cobblestones slick and turns the gray European sky into a suffocating blanket. For Karim Al-Qassim, the weather was perfect. It was ghost weather, the kind of atmosphere where a man in a trench coat dissolves into the background, where faces are blurred by mist, and where footsteps are muffled by the relentless drizzle. Karim was not a soldier who crawled through the mud of refugee camps, nor was he a young idealist throwing stones in the alleys of Nablus. He was something far more dangerous to the Israeli establishment. He was the architect. Educated at the American University of Beirut, with a master's degree in logistics from a prestigious institution in West Germany, Karim operated in the sterilized world of high finance and international shipping. To the casual observer, he was an import-export consultant specializing in agricultural machinery. To the inner circle of the resistance, he was the artery through which the lifeblood of the movement flowed. He moved money. He moved equipment. He moved people. He did not deal in ideology. He dealt in logistics. He believed with a burning intellectual intensity that the liberation of his people would not be achieved by passion alone, but by superior organization. He viewed the conflict as a mathematical equation, force multiplied by resources over time. If he could balance the equation, victory was inevitable. On this Tuesday morning, Karim sat in a cafe near the Grand Place, nursing a black coffee. On the table, a copy of Le Monde was folded to show the financial indices. He was waiting for a signal, not a person. The signal was a specific fluctuation in the exchange rate of the lira, a code agreed upon weeks ago with his handlers in Tunis. It meant the accounts were open. It meant the machinery, a shipment of dual-use electronic components vital for secure communications, was ready to move from a warehouse in Antwerp to a front company in Cyprus. Karim checked his watch. It was a Patek Philippe, understated but expensive. He despised the ostentatious wealth of the Gulf donors, but he appreciated Swiss precision. Time was the only resource he couldn't smuggle. He believed he was invisible. He believed his compartmentalization was flawless. He used dead drops, one-time pads, and never spoke on an open line. He had no criminal record, no political affiliations on paper, and he never attended rallies. He was a ghost in a bespoke suit. What Karim did not know, as he watched the rain streak the cafe window, was that his invisibility was a delusion. He was not a ghost. He was a goldfish in a glass bowl, and the cat had been watching him for 6 months. Across the square, in a room on the 3rd floor of an unremarkable office building, a camera with a telephoto lens was trained on Karim's table. The shutter didn't click. The technology was silent. Behind the camera stood a man named Eitan. Eitan didn't look like a spy. He looked like a tired university professor or a bored accountant. He wore a cardigan and cleaned his glasses with a microfiber cloth. Target is static. Eitan spoke into a small recording device. Subject is checking the time. Note the anxiety. He's waiting for the market open. To Eitan, Karim was not a villain. He was a puzzle. Eitan belonged to a specific branch of the Institute, a unit that specialized in psychological warfare and recruitment. They didn't want to neutralize Karim physically. That would be a waste. A dead logistician is easily replaced. A turned logistician, one who feeds you the enemy's infrastructure from the inside, is a weapon of strategic magnitude. But Karim was a true believer. The file on Eitan's desk confirmed it. Karim wasn't in it for the money. He funneled his own salary back into the movement. He wasn't in it for fame. He shunned the spotlight. He was driven by a deep, unwavering faith in the righteousness of his cause and the purity of his leadership. He believed that while he lived in comfort in Europe, his leaders were suffering in the trenches, sacrificing everything for the homeland. Eitan looked at the photo of Karim through the lens. "Enjoy your coffee, my friend," he whispered. "Your reality is about to break." The operation wasn't designed to capture Karim's body. It was designed to capture his mind. And the instrument of that capture wouldn't be a prison cell or a torture chamber. It would be the truth. Or, more accurately, a carefully curated slice of truth that would act like a scalpel, severing the connection between the man and his faith. Chapter 2. The Contact. The approach in intelligence work is rarely dramatic. It is a dance of proximity. You do not walk up to a target and introduce yourself. You become a familiar fixture in their landscape until your presence feels inevitable. For 3 weeks, Eitan became part of Karim's world. He was the man reading a book in the lobby of Karim's hotel. He was the polite gentleman who held the elevator door in the office complex. He was the quiet diner at the table across the aisle at the bistro Karim favored for lunch. They called it floating. Eitan floated into Karim's peripheral vision, non-threatening, European, safe. The contact happened in a bookstore on Avenue Louise. Karim was browsing through naval history, a personal hobby. Eitan reached for a volume on the same shelf, a biography of Admiral Nelson. "A brilliant tactician," Eitan said, his French accented with a soft, Germanic lilt that was impossible to place, but terrible at logistics. He often outran his own supply lines. Karim turned, surprised. He recognized the man vaguely. The elevator, the bistro. A coincidence? In Karim's world, there were no coincidences, but his ego was piqued. Few people understood the nuance of naval logistics. He relied on the speed of the engagement to negate the need for long supply chains, Karim replied, his guard slightly up, but his intellect engaged. It was a gamble. War is always a gamble, Eitan smiled, a weary, knowledgeable smile. "I'm Hans. I work in shipping insurance. We spend our lives calculating the odds of things going wrong." Karim, import-export. "Ah, natural enemies then." Eitan chuckled. "I calculate the risk. You take it." They spoke for 10 minutes. They discussed risk, tonnage, and the shifting currents of the Mediterranean shipping lanes. Eitan was careful. He didn't ask personal questions. He didn't mention politics. He displayed an encyclopedic knowledge of the shipping industry, dropping names of port authorities in Marseille and customs officials in Rotterdam. He established professional competence. In the world of espionage, competence is the ultimate aphrodisiac for a professional like Karim. "I enjoyed this," Eitan said, checking his watch. "I have a meeting with a boring actuary. If you ever want to debate the Battle of Trafalgar again, I'm usually at the cafe on Rue de la Loi around 4 p.m. He walked away. He didn't ask for a number. He didn't push. He threw the bait in the water and let it sink. Karim stood in the aisle, holding the book. His instincts, usually razor-sharp, were dormant. This Hans felt genuine. He was intelligent, sophisticated, and seemingly unconnected to the chaos of the Middle East. Karim was lonely. The life of a covert logistician is one of profound isolation. You cannot speak to your family about your work. You cannot have real friends. You are surrounded by secrets. To have a conversation about history, about systems, with an intellectual peer was a rare luxury. 2 days later, Karim went to the cafe on Rue de la Loi. Over the next month, the relationship solidified. They met for chess. They met for dinner. Eitan played the role of the cynical European businessman perfectly. He complained about taxes, about the bureaucracy of the European common market, about the decline of Western civilization. He slowly, methodically, began to peel back the layers of Karim's worldview. He didn't attack the Palestinian cause. That would have triggered Karim's defenses. Instead, he attacked the universal concept of leadership. "In my business," Eitan said one evening over brandy, "I see where the money goes. It's always the same story. The workers on the docks break their backs, and the board of directors buys another villa in Tuscany. It doesn't matter if it's capitalism or socialism. The hierarchy always eats the best meat." Karim frowned. "Not always. Some causes are bigger than the individual. Some leaders sacrifice." "Do they?" Eitan raised an eyebrow. "I admire your idealism, Karim. It's rare. But in my experience, logistics don't lie. Follow the money, and you usually find a hypocrite." Karim went home that night disturbed. He thought of the teacher, the code name for his direct superior in the movement. A man who wrote fiery speeches about austerity and sacrifice. A man Karim worshipped as a father figure. The teacher lived in a secret location, supposedly a humble safe house. constantly on the move to avoid enemy hit teams. "Logistics don't lie," Hans had said. Karim sat at his desk and opened his ledger. He looked at the transfers he had authorized the previous week. $500,000 to an account in Geneva for medical supplies. $200,000 to a holding company in Panama for tactical gear. For the first time in years, a seed of doubt, cold and sharp, took root in his stomach. He wasn't doubting the cause. He was doubting the accounting. Chapter 3. The Ledger of Ghosts. Doubt is a parasite. Once it enters the bloodstream, it feeds on everything. Karim began to look at his work differently. He was meticulous. That was his job. But he had always looked at the how to move the funds, how to hide the ships. He had never scrutinized the who or the why of the destination accounts. He had trusted the codes provided by the teacher. Now, spurred by the cynical wisdom of his friend Hans, Karim decided to run a test, a small audit of his own operation. He focused on a shipment from 3 months prior. On paper, it was a consignment of generators destined for refugee camps in Lebanon. The invoice was for $1.2 million paid to a supplier in Italy. Karim had processed the payment himself. He used his contacts, the gray network of customs officials and port workers he had cultivated over a decade. He traced the container numbers. The response came via a secure telex 3 days later. Container ID MSC 49201. Manifest generators. Status delivered. Port of entry Naples. Consignee Fantasia Yachting Lantide. Karim stared at the paper. Naples? The shipment was supposed to go to Sidon, and Fantasia Yachting. He dug deeper. He accessed the corporate registry for Fantasia Yachting. It was a shell company, registered in the British Virgin Islands. But the signatory on the receiving documents in Naples. The signature looked familiar. It wasn't a name. It was a scribble he had seen on internal memos. It was the signature of the teacher's brother-in-law. Karim felt a physical blow to his chest. Generators for refugees, $1.2 million, diverted to a luxury yachting firm in Italy. He tried to rationalize it. Maybe it's a front, he thought. Maybe they are refitting a boat for a maritime operation, a commando raid from the sea. He met Hans that evening. He was distracted, pale. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Eitan said, pouring him a glass of water. "Work," Karim muttered. "Just discrepancies." "Discrepancies are the cracks where the truth hides," Eitan said softly. "I had a client once. Thought he was insuring a charity shipment. Turned out he was insuring a shipment of antique furniture for a dictator's summer palace. He felt violated. It's the betrayal of trust that hurts, not the money." Eitan knew. He didn't know the specific details of the generators, but he knew the psychological state of his target. The Mossad team had been intercepting the same financial data Karim was looking at. In fact, they had ensured that the trail to Naples was just visible enough for a man of Karim's skill to find, but hidden enough to look like a secret. "How do you deal with it?" Karim asked, his voice tight. "When you realize the people you work for might be compromised, you have 2 choices," Eitan said, leaning in. "You close your eyes, take your salary, and become part of the rot. Or you demand the truth. But be warned, Karim, the truth is usually ugly, and it burns." Karim went back to his apartment. He didn't sleep. He pulled more files. He looked at the medical supplies account in Geneva. He traced the IP addresses of the bank transfers, a new technology then, but Karim was on the cutting edge. The money wasn't buying antibiotics. It was paying for the tuition of 3 students at a private boarding school in Switzerland. The last names of the students matched the aliases of the movement's Revolutionary Council members. The cause was bleeding. The refugees were shivering in the dark without generators. The fighters were using rusted rifles, and the leadership was buying yachts and Swiss educations. Karim felt his reality fracturing. The ideology he had built his life around, the purity of the struggle, was being eaten by termites. Chapter 4. The Interception. The Mossad decided it was time to turn up the heat. Psychological pressure is effective, but operational failure creates desperation. Karim had a major operation scheduled for the following week. Operation Dawn. It involved moving a key field commander, a man named Relied, from a safe house in Tunisia to the West Bank to coordinate a new wave of resistance. Karim had arranged everything: the false passports, the safe route through Jordan, the bribes for the border guards. It was a masterpiece of logistical planning. On the night of the crossing, Karim sat by his secure radio in Brussels, waiting for the confirmation code. Instead, the news came on the BBC World Service the next morning. Israeli security forces have intercepted a senior Palestinian commander at the Allenby Bridge. The suspect, identified as Walid al-Masri, was apprehended without incident. Intelligence sources indicate they were acting on precise information regarding his travel arrangements. Karim froze. Precise information. Only 3 people knew the route: Karim, Walid, and the teacher. Karim knew he hadn't leaked it. He knew Walid wouldn't betray himself. That left the teacher. Paranoia set in. Was it a setup? Was the teacher sacrificing Walid to clear the board for a rival? Or was there a leak in Karim's own office? His phone rang. It was the teacher's adjutant calling from Tunis. "Karim." The voice was cold, accusatory. "The leadership is asking questions. How did they know? That route was supposed to be watertight." I don't know," Karim stammered. "I followed every protocol." "We are launching an internal investigation," the adjutant said. "You are to remain in Brussels. Do not leave the city. We will send a team to debrief you." The line went dead. A team to debrief him. In the lexicon of the underground, that often meant a team to silence him. Karim was not a fool. He knew that when an operation of this magnitude failed, a scapegoat was required. The architect was the perfect candidate. He was distant, intellectual, living in Europe. Easy to paint as a traitor who sold out for Western comforts. Karim paced his apartment. He was trapped. If he ran, he looked guilty. If he stayed, he might be eliminated by his own side. He needed advice. He needed an outsider. He called Hans. "I need to see you," Karim said. "Now, not at the cafe, somewhere private." "Come to my office," Eitan said. "It's quiet there." Karim grabbed his emergency bag, cash, a clean passport, a pistol he hoped he'd never have to use, and headed into the rain. He didn't check for surveillance. He was too panicked. If he had, he might have noticed the gray sedan that had been parked down the street was now following him, keeping a protective distance. The Israelis weren't hunting him. They were escorting him. Chapter 5. The Spider's Web. Eitan's office was a rented suite in a business park, dressed to look like a consultancy firm. It had the right smell, old paper and stale coffee. Karim paced the room, recounting the call from Tunis. He didn't give details of the operation, but he explained the dynamic. He was being set up. "They are going to kill me, Hans," Karim said, his voice trembling. "They need a body to explain the failure. I am the body." Eitan sat behind the desk, his hands clasped. The mask of the friendly businessman slipped just a fraction. His eyes became sharper, colder. "Karim," Eitan said, "why do you think the operation failed? Someone talked? A leak? And who benefits from the failure? The Israelis, obviously." "Think deeper," Eitan urged. "Who benefits inside your organization? Who wanted Walid gone?" Karim stopped pacing. Walid was a hardliner. He had been critical of the corruption, critical of the lifestyle of the leadership in Tunis. He had been a threat to the teacher's authority. "My God," Karim whispered. "They sold him. They gave him to the Israelis to get rid of a rival. It happens more often than you think," Eitan said quietly. "Intelligence services often receive tips from the very groups they are fighting. It's a way to clean house without pulling the trigger yourself." Karim sank into a chair. The betrayal was total. Not only were they stealing the money, but they were also colluding with the enemy to eliminate internal dissent. "I have to leave," Karim said. "I have to disappear." "And go where?" Eitan asked. "They have reach, Karim. You know that. They will find you in London, in Paris, in Rio, unless what? Unless you have a protector, someone stronger than them." Karim looked at Hans, really looked at him. The gray cardigan, the glasses, the soft demeanor. But beneath it, he saw the steel. He saw the predator. "Who are you?" Karim asked. the air leaving the room. Eitan didn't blink. I am the man who knows about the generators in Naples. I am the man who knows about the tuition in Switzerland. I am the man who knows you are innocent of the betrayal of Relied, because I know exactly who made the call to Tel Aviv. Karim reached for the pistol in his jacket. Don't, Eitan said, his voice calm, commanding. The building is surrounded. You are safe here. I am not here to hurt you, Karim. I am here to offer you the only thing that matters right now. What is that? Revenge and the truth. Eitan slid a manila envelope across the desk. You are a logistician. You deal in facts. Open it. Karim hesitated, then opened the envelope. Inside was a flight ticket to Athens for the next morning, and a single photograph. It was a grainy surveillance shot of the teacher entering a bank in Zurich. Go to Athens, Eitan said. There is a hotel, the King George, room 404. Be there at 10 a.m. on Friday. I will show you everything. I will show you the ledger of ghosts. And if I refuse, then you walk out that door. Eitan gestured. And you take your chances with the team coming from Tunis. They land in 2 hours. Karim looked at the ticket. He looked at Eitan. The illusion of his life had shattered. He was falling, and this stranger was the only branch sticking out of the cliff face. Athens, Karim said. Chapter 6. The Summit of Lies. The flight to Athens was a blur of paranoia. Every passenger looked like an assassin. Karim clutched his briefcase, his knuckles white. Athens in the late 80s was a playground for spies. It was the crossroads of the East and West, a city of whispers. The King George Hotel stood overlooking Syntagma Square, a monument to old-world luxury. Karim checked into his room. He swept it for bugs, a habit he couldn't break, though he knew if Hans wanted to bug the room, he would have done it with technology Karim couldn't detect. He waited. 2 days of agonizing silence. He didn't leave the room. He ordered room service and watched the door. On Friday at 9:55 a.m., he went to room 404. He knocked. The door opened. It wasn't Eitan. It was a younger man, fit, military bearing, wearing a polo shirt. He nodded and stepped aside. Inside, the room was set up like a command center. Blackout curtains drawn, monitors flickering, and sitting in an armchair, looking exactly as he had in Brussels, was Eitan. Welcome, Karim, Eitan said. Coffee? It's Greek, not Belgian, but it's strong. Karim remained standing. You are Mossad. It wasn't a question. Does the label matter right now? Eitan asked. We share a problem. You want to save your people from corruption. We want to stop the violence. Sometimes the path is the same. You occupy my land, Karim spat. You are the enemy. We are enemies in a war, Eitan agreed. But there are rules to war. Soldiers fight soldiers. But what your leadership is doing, that is not war. That is theft. They are stealing the blood of your children and turning it into champagne in Paris. Propaganda, Karim said, though his voice lacked conviction. Is it? Eitan stood up. He walked to a large television screen on a cart. You asked for proof. You are a man of logic. You trust your eyes, yes? Show me. I'm going to play a tape, Eitan said. It was recorded 3 days ago, in a suite at the Hilton in Tunis. It is a meeting between the teacher and a representative of a European arms dealer. Eitan picked up a remote. This will take 3 minutes, Karim. Watch closely. Listen to the voice you have worshipped for 10 years. Chapter 7. The 3 minutes. The screen flickered to life. The image was grainy, black and white, shot from a hidden camera, likely concealed in a ventilation grate or a light fixture. The angle was high, looking down on a sitting area. There was the teacher. Karim recognized the posture, the way he gestured with his cigar. He was wearing a silk robe, relaxing on a sofa. Opposite him sat a man in a suit. 00045. The audio crackled, then cleared. The teacher. The shipment of rifles. The AK-47s from the Balkans. What is the status? Dealer. They are ready, but the price has gone up. The risks in the Adriatic are higher. The teacher. Price is not an issue. The money is coming from the Gulf donors. They are feeling generous after the last incident. Karim flinched. The incident was a bus bombing in Tel Aviv that had killed 12 civilians. The teacher was talking about it casually as a fundraising opportunity. Dealer. And the quality? These are refurbished units. Some are prone to jamming. The teacher, laughing. They don't need to shoot straight, my friend. They just need to look good on camera for the rallies. The boys who carry them, they are martyrs anyway. If the gun jams, they die faster. It saves us on pensions. Karim felt his stomach turn. Saves us on pensions. These were the fighters Karim scrambled to equip. The young men he sent into the meat grinder. The teacher viewed them as inventory. 045, 130. The teacher. Now, the important business, the commission. Dealer. As agreed, 20% into the Zurich account, 10% to the account in Cyprus. The teacher. No. Change of plans. I need the Cyprus portion diverted. My wife. She has seen a villa in the south of France. She finds Tunis too dusty. Dealer. That is a significant diversion of operational funds. The teacher. It is my movement. I am the revolution. If I want a villa, the revolution buys me a villa. Who will stop me? The idealists? The architect in Brussels? Karim stopped breathing. He heard his own code name. The teacher. That fool works 18 hours a day counting bolts and screws. He thinks he is saving Palestine. He is saving me the trouble of hiring an accountant. If he ever asks questions, well, we fed Waleed to the dogs, didn't we? We can feed him too. 130, 215. The casual cruelty, the disdain. Karim realized he wasn't a valued officer. He was a useful idiot. A fool counting bolts. Dealer. And the operation next month? The attack on the school? Karim's eyes widened. He knew nothing of an attack on a school. The teacher. Yes, we need headlines. The peace talks are gaining traction. We need blood to derail them. A school is perfect. Maximum horror. The Israelis will react with force. The streets will burn, and the donations will flow. Dealer. It is risky. The teacher. Not for me. I will be in the villa. Let the children die. Their photos will look beautiful on the posters. 215, 3. The teacher poured himself a drink. He toasted the air. The teacher. To the struggle. Long may it last. Because if we win, I'd have to actually govern. And that sounds like terrible work. He laughed. A deep belly laugh. The laugh of a man who believes he is untouchable. The laugh of a man who has successfully conned a nation. The screen went black. Chapter 8. The silence after the storm. The room in the King George Hotel was silent. The hum of the air conditioner seemed deafening. Karim stood frozen. His world hadn't just cracked, it had evaporated. Every sacrifice he had made, every risk, every sleepless night. It was all fuel for the teacher's ego and greed. The struggle was a business. The martyrs were marketing materials. He felt a nausea so profound he had to grip the back of a chair to stay upright. Aiton didn't speak. He didn't gloat. He let the silence do the work. He knew that in this moment, Karim was experiencing a form of psychological death. The man who walked into the room, the architect, was dead. The man who remained was a hollow shell, filled with rage. "You faked it," Karim whispered, his voice cracking. "It's a trick, an actor." Aiton slid a folder across the table. Bank records, authenticated, phone transcripts, the blueprint of the villa in France. And the operational order for the school attack. It's signed by him. You know his signature. Karim opened the folder. He saw the signature, the loop of the L, the sharp dot of the I. It was undeniable. He looked at the operational order. Target, primary school in Galilee. Objective, maximum casualties. They are going to kill children, Karim said, his voice hollow. To stop peace, to buy a villa. Yes, Aiton said, unless you stop them. Karim looked up. His eyes were red, rimmed with tears of rage. Stop them? How? I am one man. They will kill me the moment I step out of line. You are not one man, Aiton said. You are the architect. You know where the money is. You know where the weapons are. You know the routes. You can dismantle the machine you built. You want me to work for you? No, Aiton corrected him. I want you to work for the children, ours and yours. I want you to destroy the monster you helped create. You don't have to become a Zionist. You just have to be a man who refuses to let children die for a villa. Chapter 9. The Pivot. The transformation of a loyalist into an agent is a delicate alchemy. It is not about money. If Eitan had offered Karim $1 million, Karim would have spit in his face. It is about aligning the target's moral compass with your operational goals. Karim sat in the chair for an hour. He smoked 3 cigarettes. He reread the documents. "If I do this," Karim said finally, his voice steady, the steel returning, "I do it my way. I do not give you names of the fighters. The boys in the camps, they are victims too. I will not sell them out." "Agreed," Eitan nodded. "We don't want the foot soldiers. We want the head of the snake. We want to stop the school attack, and we want to bankrupt the corruption. I can cut the funding lines," Karim said, his mind already racing, calculating, strategizing. "I can redirect the shipments. I can feed false logistics to the leadership." "Good. But the teacher," Karim said, his eyes narrowing. "He is mine. I want him exposed. I want his own people to know what he is. I don't want him to die a martyr by an Israeli bullet. I want him to die a traitor in the eyes of Palestine." Eitan smiled. This was better than he had hoped. A dead enemy is gone. A disgraced enemy destroys the ideology. "We can help you with that," Eitan said. "We have the recordings. We have the documents. If we release them strategically, if they come from inside, they will tear him apart," Karim said. "So," Eitan extended his hand. "Do we have an accord?" Karim looked at the hand of Mossad, the enemy. But looking past the hand, he saw the only weapon he had left against the true betrayal. He took it. "For the children," Karim said, "and for Walid." Chapter 10. The Trojan Horse. Karim returned to Brussels. He contacted Tunis. He played the role of the frightened bureaucrat perfectly. He told them the leak about Walid must have come from the transport company, a mistake in the paperwork. He apologized. He groveled. The teacher, arrogant and believing Karim to be a fool, accepted the excuse. He needed Karim. The school attack was approaching, and the logistics were complex. "You are on probation, Karim," the teacher said over the phone. "Do not fail me again." "I will not," Karim promised. "I will make sure everything arrives exactly where it is supposed to." Karim went to work. But this time, he was building a trap. He coordinated the shipment of weapons for the school attack. But instead of high-grade explosives, he swapped the crates in transit through a port in Greece. The crates that arrived at the forward base in Lebanon contained inert clay and rusted machine parts. He accessed the financial network. He didn't steal the money, he just moved it. He created a digital paper trail that made it look like the teacher was embezzling funds not just from the movement, but from the rival factions as well. He planted evidence that the teacher was paying off Israeli intelligence. He was painting a masterpiece of incrimination. At the same time, Eitan and his team were working on the leak. They took the recording of the meeting in Tunis, the 3 minutes, and made copies. Chapter 11. The Leak. 2 weeks before the planned attack on the school, strange packages began to arrive at the offices of Arab newspapers in Beirut, Cairo, and London. Cassette tapes. Simultaneously, the Revolutionary Council members received dossiers. Bank statements showing the teacher's villa purchase, the diversion of funds. The effect was not an explosion, it was a wildfire. Rumors started, then accusations. The teacher tried to deny it, calling it Zionist fabrication. But the voice on the tape. Everyone knew that voice. The laugh. The specific disdain for the martyrs. It was irrefutable. In the safe houses of Lebanon, the fighters listened to the tape. They heard their leader laughing about their deaths, saving money on pensions. The rage that erupted was primal. Karim sat in his office in Brussels, watching the telex machine spit out frantic messages from Tunis. The network was collapsing. The teacher was not issuing orders. He was barricaded in his compound, fighting off his own lieutenants. Then came the final move. Karim sent a message to the operational cell poised to attack the school. Code red. Operation abort. The explosives are compromised. The leadership has sold you out. Check the crates. The cell commander in Lebanon opened the crates. He found the clay. He found the note Karim had planted. From the teacher, with love. The cell did not attack the school. They turned their trucks around. They headed for the border, but not to fight Israel. They were going to Tunis. Chapter 12. The Ghost in the Rain. The teacher was not killed by Mossad. He was not killed by the CIA. He was found in his humble safe house in Tunis, which turned out to be a palace filled with gold fixtures and imported liquor. He was found by a faction of his own movement, young men who had listened to the tape. The details of his end were never published, but the movement fractured. The school operation never happened. The funding networks collapsed, consumed by infighting and distrust. Karim al-Qasim watched it all from a distance. He had destroyed the machine he built. He met Eitan one last time, in the same rainy park in Brussels. "It is done," Karim said. "You saved a lot of lives, Karim," Eitan said. "The school, the children will grow up. And the movement? Broken. For now. It will rebuild, of course. But the myth is dead. You killed the myth." "What happens to me now?" Karim asked. "You disappear," Eitan said. "We have a new identity for you. A new life. South America? Australia?" Karim shook his head. "No. I do not want your money or your new life. I am still a Palestinian, Eitan. I cannot be this Palestinian anymore." "Where will you go?" "To the mountains," Karim said enigmatically, "to find if there is any truth left in the world." He turned and walked away into the fog. Eitan watched him go. He knew they would never see each other again. The operation was a success. The file was closed. The red page on the teacher was marked neutralized by internal action. But Eitan knew the truth. It wasn't internal action. It was one man, shattered by 3 minutes of tape, who decided to pick up the pieces and use them as daggers. And in the silence of the Brussels rain, the architect of shadows finally faded away, leaving behind a world that was slightly less dangerous, but infinitely more cynical.